Oh, the curious case of the death overs at the Chepauk. Lightning seems to have struck twice after Kolkata managed it yesterday. The Sunrisers Hyderabad, in a similar situation, needing seven and over for a large part of the chase, have still ended up on the losing side. RCB become the first team to win 2 out of 2 in IPL 2021. We look back at it all on ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. And while Deep Dasgupta and Irfan Patan had gone either way of the result at halftime, Ian Bishop proclaimed, I will not predict anything more in Chennai. And we saw good reason for that. They went from 96 for 1 to 143 for 9. Ian Bishop, all yours, please explain that.
Um, where do I start? I thought let's go back to the captaincy thing. I know Deep and Irfan are going to laugh, and you are the main stirrer, Raunak, about captaincy. I thought the bringing on of Shabazz at the time that he came on, once Warner was out, and there was a story to tell before that, but once the left-hander went and two right-handed batsmen came together at the crease, Virat went to his other bowler who turns the ball away from the right-handers. Of course, Chahal bowled a few overs before, but he bowled Shabazz at the two of them, and the left-handed spinner came into his own. It's amazing, though. We go back to the Maxwell innings now that we can see the conclusion, Irfan, Raunak, and Deep. RCB got 40 of their last three overs, somewhere around there.
Yes.
SRH needed to get 42 of their last five. And that probably speaks to the challenges, one of the pitch slowing down a little bit more in the second innings, and maybe how well RCB managed their bowlers, and maybe a little bit of a lack of skill and temperament of Sunrisers in that last five.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I'm amazed Shahbaz Ahmed didn't bowl more after that game-changing 17th over. But 3 wickets and 1 run, effectively, this is where this game's turned. Or has it turned earlier when David Warner's dismissed Deep? What's happening with chasers at the Chepauk? Why are batters not being able to see out a 7.5 an overrun chase?
I guess they got it tactically wrong to a certain extent. I mean, a lot of teams generally use the last 4 overs, rather post the timeout overs, as your death overs, right? So last 4 overs. But in Chennai, we've seen that. This is not the first game that we're seeing in Chennai. It's been the case from game 1, actually. Batting in the death over, it's not been easy. And that's where I don't know what role was Manish Pandey playing today. What was his role? I beg to ask that question, because 38 of 39. I mean, listen, 10th end of the 10th over, they were 87, right? And then slowly that dip started to happen. There was this over from Herschel or Jamieson that went for just 2 runs. I think single from Manish Pandey after 4 dot balls, and then the last ball single. I think that just, I mean, from there on, it started going south from the 10th over onwards. And that's where I thought 87 for 10 is fine. But I thought Manish, his role was, I don't know, I still can't explain what was his role in that partnership or in that innings.
Okay, Irfan, maybe you can pick off from where Deep's left off. Now, yesterday we saw guys play the big shot, Shakib Al Hasan, Owen Morgan, and we're like, oh, what's going on? Are they throwing it away? You've seen the other side now where batsmen try to bat deep, and yet they're not able to make that work either. What's going on?
Let me repeat. You need a proper batsman who's looking to hit boundaries rather than 6, especially last few overs in Chennai. If you're chasing, if you have a set batsman, doesn't matter. If you have set batsman, that's fine. But if you don't have it, then you need a proper technical batsman who can find those boundaries. I think teams are getting wrong in that regard. And Manish Pandey, what Deep said, look, if he's getting runs under close to strike rate of 100, it's not going to work. You need to get at least about 120. And he can do that, right? With singles and doubles and 1 odd boundary in between, it's not that tough. He's making it tough for himself.
I find that very interesting that Irfan says that, Bish, that there needs to be batsmen at Chennai who can find boundaries along the ground, something different to what they're used to doing in the last 4 or 5 overs.
Well, I would like to ask Irfan to clarify that for me. Go a little bit deeper with that for me, because I'm looking at Jason Holder, who is not only he's not a big 6-hitter. He's an accomplished batsman at Test match level. I'm looking at Manish Pandey, who I would have to assume is quite a decent player. Johnny Bairstow, who has played Test cricket and is quite a decent player. Virat Kohli in the first innings, who is as accomplished a player as you can ever find anywhere in the history of the game. So what's the difference in the player you want from that conglomeration of mix of players?
Irfan?
Look, yeah. So what I was trying to say, like how Kings 11 Punjab has made sure that then Nicholas Puran and Shah Rukh Khan will bat number 5 and number 6. Number 4 will be Deepak Huda, who can actually hit boundaries and maneuver the ball very, very nicely. So every team has those kind of players who can do that role, not only thinking about, I understand that that game where Huda scored runs was Wankhede, was easier batting pitch than compared to Chennai. But
Right.
every team has those kind of players who can actually maneuver the ball better and can have that intent of hitting those boundaries. So that's what my point is, that if you have players in your team, in your playing 11, just shuffle them around.
Okay, so my next question is, Irfan, what would you have done today then, right? Did SRH get it wrong? They're anyway trying something different by splitting Warner and Bairstow and putting Manish Pandey 3. Would you have done something different today?
So they're playing Bairstow because they think Riddhiman Saha is better off playing as an opener rather than middle overs. I think that's where they're going wrong. Let them come up. Let Bairstow and Warner come up, play up the order. Let Saha come, who can play spin really well. Let him come down, because you need a guy in the middle overs who can spin well. I would have still got Abdul Samad slightly higher up, where maybe on 10th over, 11th over, when the wicket were falling, when the ball was even more harder, I would have still, they need, and other thing as well, they still should have got Kedar Jadhav in, who can play spin really well, and that's where they're going wrong. I said it first as well beforehand, that just one match is not good enough for everyone, but if you're making a tactical error, you need to change it quickly.
All right, Deep, let me get you to weigh in on that. You think if Saha plays, Saha has to open. Is that something that
No,
needs to be readdressed now? And I guess the only
no.
other player that we're really looking at who could make a difference potentially is Kane Williamson. Would he make a difference
Oh, yeah.
in
See, I think I made this point mid-show as well. Today especially, I would have liked Bairstow to open with Warner. Go hard first 6, 8, 10 overs. Saha, see, Manish does not sweep, right? Saha sweeps. He can step
Yes.
out. He's got more gears, as in he's got more shots against the spin bowling. So today, especially 150, as we've mentioned before, it's not a bad score at all on this surface. So for me, I think those 40 odd runs in the last 4 overs were way too much for the end. And you really can't blame the last few batsmen who came and tried to hit big and got out. I think responsibility lies with the top order here, at least this game on these surfaces. Again, Warner, I thought, before that 10th over, the asking rate was 7.1.
yeah.
Suddenly, after those 2 overs, before he got out, that jumped from 7 or to 8 and over. So he had to play those shots because Manish wasn't connecting. Wasn't one of those days where, he was batting as fluently as he usually does. So he had to take that chance. But after that, I mean, just way too many runs left in the end in the last 4.
All right,
And
Irfan.
and Ronak, we were talking about in the mid show that you had asked me a question, if eight run per over in the last 4 5 overs, will you take it? I said it. It is very difficult in those sort of surface where ball is dipping, when it's reversing and it's a slow surface, because 8 an over can become 10 an over very, very quickly. So they need to somehow, those last few overs, make it better. Maxwell was there till the end, made it easier for RCB, and no set batsman was there, and no proper batsman was there, that made it difficult for Sunrisers Hyderabad.
Oh, it seems hard for set batsmen as well, Bish, doesn't it? Because they're batting deep, like Manish Pandey, and when they try to hit a big shot, they get out. David Warner was furious with himself. You could almost see that he could foresee this, that if he wouldn't stay till the end, things could have gotten tricky, and they did. It doesn't quite seem like even the best of batsmen have found how to ideally play at the Chepauk this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. So I accept what Deep and Irfan are saying, but again, I'll go back to Virat. Virat couldn't get it going, having batted deep into the innings. Jason Holder in the Caribbean is reputed to be one of the better players of spin bowling. That's why he usually bats where he does. So you have a whole mix of types of players that haven't been able to find the right gear. What I want to do as well, lest we gloss over it, is to give really a lot of credit to Shabazz, for Kohli for bringing Shabazz on when he did, and for Harshal, although he bowled 2 no balls, found the right sort of changes of pace at the back end of the innings there to make things difficult. So while we can focus on what wasn't right, we also need to give credit for what was done very well.
Yes, Deep.
Quickly, I think that's a great point that Bish makes, because again, going back to, because we kind of tend to forget what happened in the first innings. Obviously, Maxwell played beautifully, but both Bish and Irfan, do you think the SRH bowlers in the death took the wrong option? I mean, for example, Bhuvi tried to bowl those Yorkers and went for 15 runs in the 19th or the 18th over, if I'm not wrong. So
Yes.
when you look at Herschel, what he did and what the RCB bowlers did at the fag end, rather than trying to bowl those Yorkers or quick, they preferred the slower ones over the Yorkers.
Yeah,
Irfan?
use the pitch. Use the pitch. If pitch is helping you, if it's seaming, use the pitch. If it's slow, use the pitch. And that's what RCB bowlers did much better. And you rightly mentioned Harshal Patel's name. It could have gone really bad when he bowled the no ball, which was full toss, and it was a free hit as well after that. But he straight away started using the pitch with the slow ones and the different length. One ball, which was very, very crucial when Rashid Khan missed it of Siraj, that was a attempted Yorker which went wrong. But luckily for RCB, there was no run on that. So using the pitch was the right thing to do in here in Chennai.
What we're also seeing, Bish, in 2 games in a row now is a left-arm spinner playing a big role in the last 3 or 4 overs. Krunal Pandya yesterday, Shahbaz Ahmed today. There was every case for Shahbaz to have perhaps bowl more. But again, something that you can probably see a lot more of in Chennai, an orthodox spinner taking the ball away from whichever type of batsman there is, having a big role to play at the death.
Yeah, I mean, spin, I think the numbers show overall that I suppose that mostly talking about mystery spin and wrist spin has a part to play at the end of the innings. Well, the way that this pitch is spun and offered for the slow bowlers, it kind of brings those guys in to play the finger spinners because it's turning so much. And once you're bowling to the right type of batsman, taking the ball away from them, guys love to go to the onside. I think I heard Deep say that not too long ago. It's kind of a go-to area in this format of the game at that time. It is a real plus and smart moves by RCB.
Okay, one more thing I ask all of you. Is it that hard to actually get a runner ball? There are lots of dot balls as we creep into the last 4 or 5 overs. And I can't make sense of 2 runs and over, 3 runs and over in 2021 and 2020. However hard, you think somewhere you should be getting a runner ball. But is it really getting that hard, Deep, that we're reaching a point where teams are not able to get a runner ball?
Not really. I think they batted very conservatively. I think they were a little more circumspect in the whole run chase. Obviously, Warner played the way he does and played a beautiful knock. But somehow, I don't know. I mean, was Manish's role was to stay there till the end or play the kind of role or an inning that Maxwell played? I'm not too sure. But even then, I think run a ball, I mean, he's better than run a ball. I mean, unfortunately, could be one of those days where, Manish was hitting everything to the fielder, wasn't able to pick up those gaps. Can happen to the best in the world. But what I'm trying to say here is that intent at times was missing from that innings from Manish, and that's why I'm just thinking what was the role that was assigned to him.
Okay, anyone wants to elaborate on the Manish Pandey innings? Do you think there was a bigger responsibility on him, Vish, to see the side through after Warner's wicket? Irfan?
I would say yes, Deep is not wrong, but I would say that there are other guys. I suppose Manish was in, so a greater onus would be placed on him. But just going back to your former question, I mean, as a number 8, 9, 10 who played back in the days of a dinosaur, I still think that a runner ball. I mean, if it's Rashid Khan, it's a different story when you can't pick which way it's going. But I think you think to yourself as a batsman, if you're Bairstow and those guys, I should have done better.
Yeah.
Okay. For this team in particular, is it just really dependent on Kane Williamson for these sorts of situations? Because there is a vulnerability for years now with that middle order. Irfan, for this team in particular, is that player very important to have in the 11?
if Besto is playing middle overs, who's a better batsman? Is Besto will maneuver the spin really well, play along the ground, play in the air, or Kane Williamson is a better batsman? I would choose Kane Williamson any day of the week. So, he has to be there in these sort of kind of pitches. We have seen that he can actually up the strike rate as well when he's needed. And when he's needed to play those big shots, he can do that as well. So they need to make a decision, and they need to make a decision, especially on this tracks which they're going to be playing.
I mean, they've got 3 more games on this pitch, Bish. Is that something that they need to look at, Sunrisers, the balance of the overseas?
Definitely. Look, I said from the start that I would have played Kane, and I said that publicly, I think on your forum or somewhere else, because Kane is a versatile player. His record just across the board generally tells you that he can, if things need to go, then he will go. He played an innings at Abu Dhabi last year where he just worked it around. And then when the charge came, he was skillful enough to use his feet. Deep must have been there. Deep was with me all through that IPL. So he would be my choice to be in that team. There's no disrespect to any of the other overseas players, but Kane would be in there for me.
It also seems like, Deepa, while we're saying it's all good, well and good to have Kane Williamson back this team, a similar bunch of personnel are yet bringing the same discussion to Sunrisers every IPL. Vijay Shankar's or even Manish Pandey's done a lot more for them, but we're still not seeing someone raise their hand up and actually win them a game, even though people like Vijay Shankar have been around a while.
And I can't agree more with Irfan on this. If you've got someone like Kedar and you're playing on turners, you've got to play Kedar. I mean, I know he didn't have a great last season. I completely understand that. Maybe I don't know his form right now, to be very honest. He did all right in Vijay Hazare. I think he got a 80 odd, if I'm not wrong, in one of the games. But if you have someone with that kind of experience of finishing games as well, and a record of playing spin, you pick Kedar Jadhav. I would, and his over here and over there can come handy from him as well. So yeah, I mean, Kedar Jadhav for me in that middle order gives you more tooth, and Williamson definitely. If it's middle order, definitely yes.
Yes, Bish?
Sorry, have we revisited the decision of the toss yet?
We can do that right now. Yeah.
To chase on this thing, as we saw, I think I didn't want to just touch on it, but not only with the benefit of hindsight, but when Davey had his reasons, and there'd be good thought through reasons for trying to chase. But I mean, it's so challenging with this pitch wearing later on. I wonder about that.
Yeah, that's 3 games now where the chase hasn't gone right, Irfan. And the only one where it's gone right is actually AB de Villiers playing a fine little knock at the end against Mumbai.
And that's why AB de Villiers is so special player. And that's why in the mid show, I went for RCB because of that particular reason, because it was, difficult to chase. We saw what happened yesterday, and it could have happened today as well. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as the ball got older, and the chasing become very, very difficult. Even what we discussed right now, even single and doubles were very, very difficult for a batsman to find.
Okay.
I actually wonder whether it's ABD and Virat chasing, was that playing on their mind, that they don't want them to chase, they rather have them bat first and them chase? Because generally, if you look at SRH, they are actually a team who generally likes to bat first. They have a lot of faith in their bowling. They generally do defend really well because they have those kind of bowlers in their ranks. And I mean, maybe the whole thing about RCB and especially Virat and ABD, maybe that played a part in that decision.
Okay. Shall we, just before we wrap things up, have a more detailed, objective view of the importance of the Glenn Maxwell innings now? It's turned out to be a match-winning innings. Irfan?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And let's not talk about the prediction of those runs he's going to make, but he did pretty well. Look, more than me or anyone else, RCB fans and management will be very, very happy with his growth, especially at the start of the inning. I don't know how many runs he got last year. He's already going to cross what he did in the whole season in the just 2 innings. And, they did the right thing to making him bat in the middle overs, number 4, and then giving him more chances. And I was just hearing Mike Hessen as well that they want to give him at least 10 ball before he gets going. So they came with the planning, and it's being successful so far.
It's big innings to have early on in a season, especially for a player like Maxwell Bish.
Yeah, I mean this is as good after I think he scored just over 100 runs last year. I think he started well. So what I would say, and he doesn't need any of us to tell him what to do, but the main thing against Maxwell is his inconsistency in the IPL, that is over the years. He had 1 or 2 good seasons, but been very inconsistent. So the same principles that he has applied to his innings, he's got to keep that going throughout the season. They've given him a nice slot, given him that comfort for now of AB de Villiers coming behind him. That might change, but this is a great confident start for him, and so he must continue applying himself.
Okay, last 2 questions. Our team's now going to stop chasing if they win tosses in Chennai. Deep?
Yeah, I mean, quite well be. I mean, next 2 games are in Mumbai, so so the next game is 2 days, 3 days to go now. So the pitch might behave differently. So I mean, not necessarily, but I'm sure they would be thinking twice before chasing now, because that's been the case here in Chennai.
Okay, now Mumbai Sunrisers is the next game in Chennai. So it's anyone's guess now which way the Sunrisers go. I want to ask the 3 of you before I wrap things up, which kind of T20 games are we enjoying more? Are the 3 of you enjoying more? The 6 games in Mumbai or this? I'm very curious to know.
I want to hear Deep Dasgupta answer this first.
Okay, Deep, what's been more enjoyable?
I'll be honest. I think the last game in Chennai, as in yesterday's game in Chennai, was enjoyable. That 160, 170 odd games. 140, 150 becomes a little too low. I guess, so this, I'd rather have a 170 odd game rather than a 200 game. Let's put it this way.
Okay, I still don't know which way you've told me then. I'm still not sure whether you prefer the Bombay games or the Chennai games. Somewhere in the middle. Irfan?
Yeah, I said it before as well when we were talking about this and discussion was happening about the pitch. I said I'm fine with this kind of pitches in between, and that's what makes the cricket so interesting, because this is the only game which depends on the surface. One player who plays really well in Wankhede looks different when he plays in Chennai. So that is the beauty of the game. So I'm cool with it. Both I'm fine as long as the match is getting closer like this.
Okay, Bish, you've had the benefit of listening to 2 answers before you. What have you got?
I will say I wouldn't contextualize it. I'll say exactly how I feel. From a viewer's perspective, not from an ex-player or player point of view that wants balance and stuff in the game. I think it's not a bad thing to have the pitch, but I think the perfect scenario would be to have that sort of 165, 170, where there's still a little bit of something in it for the bowler, if it's swing or a little bit of spin, but you can also trust the pace coming onto the bat and apply your batting skills. So just a little bit higher than this would make it perfect. This isn't bad, but it's like you're sort of reading a boring book and you're waiting for the end for all of that sort of excitement to happen. No, viewers want excitement all the way through.
Yeah. So, for example, I think in the last 6 overs, there was only 2 boundaries hit. So you would want boundaries, but not 2 boundaries every over.
Okay, that is very interesting. I still have no idea between the 3 of you what you prefer, if that makes any difference.
No, but I told you exactly what I wanted. Something a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm still trying to figure whether
you're
games more than games more. Anyway,
we will never play.
From that point of view, Mumbai, give me Mumbai.
You're liking the Mumbai games. Okay. And if I had to ask you where you'd rather bowl, would you rather bowl in the Mumbai games or would you rather bowl in the Chennai games?
That's why I distinguish between the viewer and the former player. Go ahead.
I would rather bowl in Chennai and bat in Mumbai.
That's it. There we have it. There's a man who knows exactly how to balance. Okay, brilliant. This has been fun. Ian Bishop, Deep Dasgupta, you got a couple of games in Mumbai to just raise the average scores of the IPL so far, which desperately needs some raising. So enjoy them, and we'll get you back in a couple of days. Irfan, I will see you tomorrow. Absolute cracker lined up. So do join us for that on ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. Crazy first week that continues to roll on in the IPL, and make sure you catch the Intel Fastest Fan first on the ESPN Cricket for Facebook page if you want to try and test your cricketing IQ. There's going to be plenty of that on our show as well. Right, RCB looking good. They're at top of the table in these early parts of the tournament. Sunrisers, first team to lose 2 out of 2. Let's see how they respond in a couple of days' time when they play the defending champions in Chennai. We'll see you tomorrow for the Delhi Rajasthan game. Until then, for all of us, it's good night.